post pandemic is not the only problem. With every passing year, we have been having issues with the number of readers wanting to read books. Not that we have reading itself coming down. There are plenty of reading possibilities. One can get a lot of free content on the net. There are audiobooks, there are e-books, there are websites. So, there are plenty of possibilities. Now, within this context, where are you going to get your readers? Now, that itself is your first problem. Pandemic did not really impact us in a big way, in the sense that it did affect whenever there was a complete shutdown of the economic activities, that impacted us. But even during that period, people were buying books by ordering them through e-commerce sites. So, that was happening, right. Now, post pandemic, or I mean, I do not know whether we can even say post pandemic, now with things getting a lot better, people are walking into the shops as well as buying online. So, in a sense, we have come back to where we were pre pandemic, but there has been a consistent mild decline in terms of the total number of copies sold overall, and that has an impact in terms of coming up with new titles, because you have to keep investing in this whole infrastructure, right. And some of the expected revenue streams that we had in mind, the scaling up of e-books has not happened. Now, that is that's a problem. Audiobooks, that has not gone to the level that we expected. All of this I am talking about with respect to the regional language publishing, particularly Tamil publishing, right. But I also learned that in English there has been a significant increase in terms of normal print book distribution itself across the country. Electronic books and audiobooks may have also marginally increased, but print book has substantially increased, and that is something that we have not seen in Tamil. How do we handle that? How do we overcome these challenges? One is consistent cost cutting. Some of the costs that we were earlier handling, we have brought it down. Second is absorbing technology and adapting to that technology. We do a lot more of print on demand models. So, today we do not keep a lot of stock. We instead have the digital version with our partner Repro, and if an order comes, then Repro prints on that day. So, Repro is the fulfilling partner in Flipkart and Amazon. So, when an order comes for a particular title for which nobody keeps a stock, we do not keep a stock, and our none of our partners keep a stock, but on the day this order comes, the book is printed, just one copy printed that day and fulfilled that very same day. Now, we are able to fulfill the customers' requirements, but the margin for us is considerably low, but we have to adapt this, otherwise the alternate is zero stock, and we will say stocked out, and we will come back to you at a later point in time. It is better to take a lower margin and then make a copy available on the print side of things. Electronic copies, I already told you, it is not really scaling up at this particular stage, but we are hoping that few other modes that we are looking at. We are looking at if we can create podcasts around the book and monetizing it. It is not there yet, but we are looking at that as a model. We are looking at creating new titles by way of first serializing it in our own online magazine. So, the book making process becomes simple. So, that will help us in terms of scaling up our production and doing a lot of online marketing. So, I mean, there are many things to talk about, but these are some of the ideas. One of the things is, this is again a long term change that has resulted in this. It is not something that we can change overnight. So, there are some very significant changes that are happening at the educational levels. All the middle class, they have shifted their children to English medium education consistently across India, but particularly in Tamil Nadu this is much more rapid, this transformation, right. When they are going through English medium, now Tamil is always a second language, so you would expect them to have a reasonable capability in Tamil, especially given that it is also your mother tongue. But the reality is not so. Their command over Tamil is abysmal. You can walk into any of the English medium schools here, it could be a CBSE school, it could be the Samachir, metric schools, wherever the students have opted for English medium, their understanding of Tamil itself and their ability to read and comprehend in Tamil comes down drastically. And this rapid decline basically results in those wanting to read things in English, because that is their only language where they have reading comprehension. They have some degree of listening comprehension in their mother tongue. So, that is one of the reasons why an audio product would work differently. They are very well following YouTube content, a video content presented in Tamil, but when it comes to reading and comprehending, they are stuck because they are not comfortable with reading large volume Tamil text, right. This is what I do not have a statistical data to prove this to you, but anecdotal evidence and generally the overall experience that we have looking at our own children, our neighbors children and people in the neighborhood, this is what we get to see. But are they great in English? No, absolutely not. They are quite bad in English too, but they are worse in Tamil. Now, this is the kind of people that we are talking about. So, in a sense, those who have a reasonably good grasp in reading English and comprehending that, they obviously will buy only the English books. Now, that volume is increasing consistently. Now, when we talk of publishing in Tamil, our first aim is to create original content in Tamil. Translation is always a distant second. It can never compete with content originally written in any given language, right. The quality of translators available today is also quite poor. Translation is thankless job. It takes a lot of time to translate a 200 page, 300 page book. Let us say that I have my goal is to publish in Tamil, and I have fantastic content available in English, let us say, right. For me to get that out in Tamil takes a long time, and even after a round of translation and couple of rounds of editing, you are still not satisfied. However, if I had a highly accomplished person in that particular topic who writes naturally in Tamil, the quality is far better. We in Kizhakku, we publish a lot of translations too, and it is a lot of effort. Honestly, I am telling you, I would have easily produced for one translated title from English to Tamil, the same effort if it is put in original writing in Tamil and then publishing it, I could have easily produced 10 titles. So, 1:10. So, if you are taking that kind of an effort for a translation, is that reflected in sales? It is not. Still some of us are going through this translation process, because that is the only way in which you are going to even put out certain titles which there is nobody qualified or capable or is sufficiently incentivized to write directly in Tamil. Why not try getting the Tamil content to English, right. Now, this has its own challenges too. In fiction, there is that uniqueness, and therefore, this will work, right. So, for example, Tamilians themselves, since they have pretty much stopped reading, I am not saying everybody, but let us say a significant numbers of them have stopped reading in Tamil, they cannot get classic literary titles directly in Tamil and read. Therefore, they are looking for translations, right, English translations of their own culture, which gets written in Tamil first and then gets translated into English. We have very few writers. If you take for example, the one who has just recently been awarded Sahitya Academy, the announcement has just come. See, somebody like Kalyan Raman, right? He is a fantastic translator from Tamil to English. You can find maybe about 3 or 4 more like him who can do that kind of a job from Tamil to English, right. And Kalyan Raman himself or similar folks will not touch a non-fiction, because for them their focus is fiction, right. And who will then translate non-fiction? There are a few, there are some good ones too, but you can't really incentivize them. They are working somewhere and they are probably getting paid way more per hour than what you can afford to give them. So, we have huge challenges that way. In spite of all of this, if somebody gets involved in translating your Tamil titles, the ones that you have published, to English, it is only because of friendship, right. They are really your good friends and you have pestered them to have them translated to English. When you do that, again there is no uniqueness, because it's end of the day it's a non-fiction content, and if it's about global or Indian politics or science, I mean we don't have such great writing in Tamil that can then be taken into English from a non-fiction point of view. So, the choice is also limited in a sense. So, today while there are plenty of titles that can be brought from English to Tamil in both fiction and non-fiction, only for fiction Tamil to English will even work, at least for now. Maybe it will change down the line, but right now that is the only thing that will work. So, the availability of good titles, availability of good translators and a lack of reasonably large market, all of that will hamper how many titles you can actually take, how quickly you can do that, what kind of editorial infrastructure you can throw at them. So, there are huge structural challenges which we have to overcome to address this particular problem. So, that is one part of your question, which is about why not why don't we have translations. So, if you look at the Indian languages, let us start by first with numbers, right. Hindi is the largest Indian language. Now, a lot of people will, particularly in Tamil Nadu, will say no, it is not one language, there is Rajasthani, there is Bihari, there is Maithili, Bhojpuri, etc., but the written language is basically Hindi. It is the single standardized Hindi that is almost read from Rajasthan at one end to Bihar at the other end, with a whole bunch of states in between, right. That is where the biggest numbers are. Interestingly, in terms of numbers, the next 3 languages would be Marathi, Telugu and Bengali. In that, Telugu has numbers, but not a very highly developed publishing. So, in terms of its overall, Telugu market will be much smaller. Now, Marathi and Bengali are highly fiction driven markets. Their non-fiction is again not that highly developed, including politics, right. So, Tamil somehow comes there because of others not being large enough in certain areas. In terms of fiction, Marathi and Bengali will beat Tamil by big factors. It is not by percentage. Probably the top Marathi fiction and Bengali fiction will sell 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as many copies as a top Tamil fiction. You throw Malayalam into this, because that is where in a sense there is a sort of completion, because it is a much smaller population, less than half of Tamil Nadu's population, but the reading percentage is higher. So, in a sense if you really look at it, there is Hindi, there is Tamil, there is Malayalam, Marathi, Bengali. These are the languages to really look at. Other languages come well behind, it could be Telugu, it could be Kannada, it could be Gujarati, and then the rest are all tiny. Even the next set of languages, that Telugu, Kannada and Gujarati that I talked about, are considerably smaller. So, amongst this, if you take Malayalam, there are fewer publishers. The number of publishers really small, and there is one almost monopoly who has one particular publisher nearly 50% of the market share in terms of number of titles put out, and number of, that person is also a bookstore. So, they have huge control over that Malayalam publishing space. Now, Bengali also, there is a very big newspaper group which is having a publishing, which is publishing arm, which is a leading publisher there. Marathi is much more fragmented, because in a sense Bombay is not a big Marathi market, Pune is a bigger market for them, because Mumbai is a bigger cosmopolitan market where a lot of people speak Hindi. Though there may be certainly Marathi readers, the publishing capital in Maharashtra is more of Pune and surrounds, etc. So, if I look at all these languages, Hindi's problems are different from rest of the other languages. Other languages are restricted to one state, or in case of Telugu 2 states, that is Andhra and Telangana, the unified, the older Andhra, right. Hindi on the other hand, it is very widespread, and distribution is an issue. Popularizing a particular author, a Madhya Pradeshi author, how do you make that person popular in Rajasthan and in Bihar? So, there are a lot of domestic issues in terms of promotion, etc., because everybody is at the end of the day a small publisher, even in Hindi. A Penguin started a Hindi imprint, but has not really achieved anything big in that. So, we really have the publishing scene waiting to be highly transformed. There is a lot of hope in Hindi for dramatic transformation. It is a state specific thing, and a lot of them are dependent on state subsidies or library procurement. You can't entirely depend on the just the direct to consumer alone. You have to have institutional support. Now, the institutional support varies, corruption enters into the system. So, for example, Malayalam procurement is highly democratized and it is very reasonable. I have not heard of governmental corruption. Now, on the other hand, Tamil Nadu, it is prone to corruption. The last 10 years of the previous regime, it was nothing but corruption in book procurement, and at the school level the size of the corruption is even bigger. It is not at least there is some degree of democratization in the general purpose library targeted publishing and procurement, but at the school level it is chaotic. In fact, you do not even get to know that they are procuring books, and you do not get orders, and you can corner any sized market there if you are close to whoever is the ruling dispensation, and if you are ready to bribe and get a big deal. Since the new government has come in Tamil Nadu since 2021, no procurement has so far happened, be it for schools or for regular libraries. Worse still, the last year of the previous AIDMK government, that is in the 2020, right in the middle of COVID, books were procured. It is now almost the end of 2022, the money has still not been paid. A significant percentage of money has not been paid. certain amount has been paid, but we are still waiting for money to come from what was procured in 2020, right. This is the level of institutional support here in Tamil, and they will talk about we are here for Tamil. That is a utter nonsense basically. When the current government when it starts procuring, then we will see how transparent it is or whether there is corruption involved. Ideally, we have to go to what Kerala is doing, right. Libraries are essentially managed by local bodies. Local bodies in turn have councils of people, the direct beneficiaries, and they are given a budget and they also spend it. There is a culture, right, of wanting to buy good books. Here the beneficiaries, the actual consumers, have no say over what book is bought, and local bodies have no involvement whatsoever. So, it is not the role of a state government or central government to choose what books should be bought by various regions. It should be left to the people. Now, it is nice to say, but since you do not have that culture and continuity for not now today the current government, but over the last many decades, if it is opened up and then given to all those local bodies and the branch libraries, I have no idea what will happen. The corruption will be now transferred from the centralized state government driven corruption to local body driven corruption maybe, right. So, what works in Kerala, there is no guarantee that it will work in Tamil Nadu. I do not know, but that is a better model. Hopefully, then the beneficiaries will get involved and then at least will shout if some low quality books are bought. They will say, why is this even here? Why are we wasting our money? We could have bought these books. So, I do not know how this is going to change. I think the arrival of internet has been great for a reader. Let us start with that, right. Ultimately, publishers are there to publish a book for a specific reader. So, as a reader, since I am also a reader, I am thrilled with internet. I now have access to the kind of books that I could have never imagined I would have access to if not for internet. Now, it is about all of us, whether it is the writer, the author and the publisher, of how to adapt to these changing circumstances to build a profitable business, because profitable business is extremely crucial for your longevity and for you to keep coming up with innovations in this particular space, right. So, it is a little bit of a challenge for us, because what used to work is not working anymore. So, we are constantly expected to look at what we are doing and then become a different version of what we were earlier, right. So, once this works for at least some of us, we will survive, the others will struggle. So, there we are certainly going to see a lot of publishers folding up and some surviving, but that would mean that in the short term it will be a problem also for both the writer and the reader, because if there are not enough publishers to support the process of bringing the book out, it is going to be a problem for the writer as well as the reader. For a brief while, I thought that publisher as an intermediary will be completely removed and a lot of disintermediation would happen with the writer and the reader talking to each other. But that has also not happened. Self publishing has not really produced out of the world work in a whole bunch of areas, right. Instead, a lot of trash has come out as an outcome of self publishing, because anybody who would never be allowed to publish in the past because their product is substandard, now you have them publishing because nobody is stopping them, right. So, they can spend very little money and publish on their own. So, that is the thing that is happening, but the challenge for the publishers remain, and that some are at least overcoming that. Hopefully, let there be more who can overcome these challenges. I think the question is a little unfair. The Delhi International Book Fair is international because it is supported by National Book Trust with the central government funding, which is quite significant, and a country has to have at least one international book fair, and that is what is Delhi Book Fair. Kolkata Book Fair is a fascinating event by itself, and its international stature is highly diminished international stature. They may call it international. Bangladesh will always participate in it because they both share the same language and also the same script, unlike Punjab, where the two Punjabs have slightly different script. Here the script is also the same, language is the same. They also get some other country as a sort of country of significance in each book fair, but nothing much happens there. I mean, they will have Paraguay as a special country, but you will not see a lot of publishers from Paraguay coming there. So, it is basically it is Kolkata Book Fair with Bangladesh participation and a little bit of if there is a little bit of international participation, that is minuscule. The Bapasi, we may call it Bapasi with South India, but it is basically a Tamil Publishers Association with some English publishers of Tamil Nadu, that is what it is, right. That has done its job of organizing Chennai Book Fair tremendously well, you have to grant it to them. So, their focus was that, and they have been doing that. The current idea of international book fair in Chennai is not Bapasi's idea, it is the DMK government's idea, you have to give it to them, right. So, they want to convert this book fair into an international book fair, not the entire book fair, but the last 2 or 3 days of it. So, it is they who have, so it is a governmental initiative working along with Bapasi. So, if you go and directly ask the Bapasi office bearers, they may not have much of an idea. It is driven out through a slightly different process, and that is not anything to be ashamed about, either for Bapasi or for any of us, right. Some of these ideas will work only if there is a little bit of government intervention to at least start the process, right. Something else which has become very popular is the Jaipur Literary Festival. It is not exactly a book fair, it is more a literary festival, and slowly a book fair is sort of emerging around that. I think what we need to do in Tamil Nadu is experiment with this model of international, that are only 3 days allocated for that international event. It is primarily for buying and selling rights, that is a good idea. In Kerala they have tried it, I do not know how successful it is, but in Tamil hopefully over the next 2-3 years it can become successful. But then roll a Jaipur like model, bring Jaipur like model here, right. Then there will be a traditional consumer fair, there will be a rights sale event which is a government funded event, it should not be run by government, but government funded initially at least for the next 5 years, and then the industry body will pick up and individual publishers will pick up. Through a festival, for example, the Hindu conducts a literary festival. Now, that is sort of fragmenting, it will happen exactly around the same time. Now, you can't go and tell them why are you doing it there, why do not you do it as part of this, it is unfortunate, but ignore that, I mean let them do it on their own. But it is possible to get a event organizer like Jaipur Literary Festival to build a literary festival around the Chennai Book Fair at that venue, right. When you start, you will bring a lot of English authors, international English writers, Indian English writers, translators, right. And from there on you will get a whole bunch of Indian language writers with language interpreters adding to that. So, suddenly you will see that there will be a much higher quality of book fair itself happening there, more of English stalls coming up along with Tamil stalls, and there will be more of democratization and cosmopolitanization that will happen. Hopefully, in the coming years we can do that. Rather than saying why Bapasi did not do it in the past, we can look at this as perhaps a good beginning as starting this year, and then look at expanding it into something really big here. Now, this is a pure commercial initiative. For example, even today, so Penguin may not do it directly, but if there is a consortium of Indian language publishers and they can go and do a deal across the board with Penguin saying top 10 English novels that you are going to come up with, you will know by the time you read and your editorial process starts, you know that these are going to do really well. You do a deal with us, I mean one of us from Tamil, one from Telugu, one from Bengali and so on, and Malayalam, so 10 of us. Work along with us so that the near final draft we immediately pull in a translator. So, as and when each chapter is being edited, we will also have a certain raw translation worked out, and then when it is time to really publish the English version, we are ready with the corresponding versions for all the Indian languages. That is a possibility. Today the market being so small, Penguin is not really bothered. The problem is not giving rights, which they are immediately after the book being published, they are ready to sell the rights. But the process of working with 10 publishers in various languages, that is where they probably have a lot of problems. Tomorrow, if there is a publisher who works in 4 or 5 or 6 Indian languages and can go and do an advance deal with all these Penguin Random House and HarperCollins and Hachette and Juggernaut and so on, then this may even be possible even now. It's quite realistic. I have not brought a list, but we have multiple translations that are coming up for this book fair, and for the first time we have experimented with a model which is serializing a book. So, we intentionally started a daily magazine called Kizhakku Today, and we approached a whole bunch of authors, now nearly 20 plus authors now, telling them that let us conceive of a book. You do not have to give me a whole manuscript right away. We will spec out the number of chapters, the contents of the chapter, and then you can start giving me in weekly installments, right. Again, I would not say this is new, it is new for us. There is this app called Binge that came up very recently during the COVID period, and they started serializing content, but it was not clear to me about what kind of a publishing idea they had, right. Whereas we are coming from a different model, we are not looking at monetizing our magazine. In fact, we are opening up the whole thing for free to end users, no need to download an app, it is all there in the website for anybody to consume or in the mobile for anybody to consume, but they are visualized as a book and brought out as a book. So, first installment for this book fair, we are bringing out 10 titles, which is a product of Kizhakku Today. Outside of that, we have few more books that are coming up as well. These were written as full books, but these 10 books, which are the first installment, were visualized as serials, the content of which is already there on the net. So, anybody can go and read it, but they will also be sold as a book. So, somebody will ask, does it really work? I mean, when the material is available for free, if you print it as a book and then sell it, why would anybody buy it? Writer Jaymohan has already tried this. Almost everything that he is publishing as a book today, they have been serialized in his site first. Right. Somehow you find that there is a lot of positive advantages to doing that, and we are just trying out those kinds of models. Looking at what Jaymohan has done, looking at what Binge app has tried, we are trying to do that, and we will know when we put these 10 books out how well they are going to do in the market, and that will tell us whether we should pursue this further, expand this substantially, and then see whether this is a lucrative model. I have discussed many times about how I got into publishing. It is a very long answer. The short one is that I really like books, I like reading, I like listening to audiobooks. So, I am myself a huge consumer of books, and therefore, I wanted to be part of this ecosystem, and that is how I became a publisher. That is a short answer. It is a risky business, it is a thankless business, it is not a lucrative business. I will be the first one to admit, and I have admitted it many times. I do other things to generate income. Publishing has been basically an expenditure column for me than profit, right. But I am going to continue to stick to that for now, because it gives me a certain fulfillment which I will not get elsewhere. So, there are certain gains, perhaps not material gains, there are other gains that I certainly get, which is why I am sticking to that. End of the day, we all have lots of interests, and this is my way of figuring out, can I build a business in each one of my interest areas. Publishing is an interest area, therefore, I will go and do something. There are other interest areas also, and I am trying to figure out if I can do interesting stuff. Oh, by the way, I am always looking at technology and see how things can be done with whatever else I am doing. Today, I had a very deep discussion about how to get artificial intelligence involved in certain aspects of publishing, and if everything works out fine, within a year or two I may have, along with some friends, some interesting AI products related to books. So, I am really hoping something interesting will come out of this.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.